Order! Welcome to the Fox Valley Anglers meeting on April 25th. 22nd. Sorry, deal with my pneumonia still. I'm a little out of whack. So today we have our Garmin raffle going on. If you want to buy tickets, scan QR code. You can do it right online, or come up here and buy tickets during our speech. When Todd speaks, he's going to pull the winning ticket. Hey, Steve, are we live or private?
We're live. Well, you have
Publish.
You have to have the link.
Yeah, can you publish this meeting today? Can you be able to do that? I forgot to ask you that. If you want to get this thing published so everybody else sees it outside our club meeting, all right. We got to shut it down and bring it back on? All right, we'll find out. So, a few moments.
That should be public now. It's public now.
Public now? All right, so now we're public. So, Todd can do the speech, and then as soon as Todd's done speech, we'll pull the raffle tickets for the Garmin. So, Todd is going to speak about smallmouth fishing up in Door County. So, come on up. He's back by popular request. Microphone. Put it on your neck. Put it on your neck. Remote up and down. Downhill.
My sides are on there.
There you go. Okay.
How do I push it? Just up?
Yeah, press the down button. Press the down button. It goes down slide. Okay.
Hello? Check, mic check. All right. How's everybody doing tonight? Good. All right. Who's been out fishing already this year? Nice. I like it. Who's been smallmouth fishing this year? Anybody been on the big lake yet? Did you do anything? How did you do?
4 pounds smallmouth.
Awesome.
And the Fox River right out 3 days.
Okay. All right. I'm going to let you guys know that they're biting right now. I was out in the lakefront today, and they were chewing today. Water temperature is about 51 degrees on Lake Michigan right now downtown. Sturgeon Bay is a little colder. It's about 47 from what I heard yesterday. And so this is the beginning of the best time of fishing of your lives. Like, this is like between mid-April to mid-June is probably my favorite 2 months to fish out of the year. It's better than fall, in my opinion. Fall's great, big smallmouth. But spring is just phenomenal. It's going to be lights out. Last year we really had an early spring, and so fish were pushed up the beds really early. And I think this year we're going to finally have a really good spring. I think last year during the Sturgeon Bay Open and Wisco, it was a bed fishing fest, which I hated. I think it's terrible for the fishery to have these tournaments to, these guys are picking them off beds and dragging them, so far. And that's another debate we could talk about, but whatever. But I think finally for the big tournaments this year, I think it's going to be a good pre-spawn bite, and I'm really looking forward to it. And so we're going to go through some stuff. We're going to go through some tactics. We're going to go through, best rod and reel setup and line setup that you guys can maximize the bite, okay? Can we use any rods? Sure. I mean, you guys can use go take a flipping stick and go catch smallies. Your chances of landing one and getting a bite are gonna be a lot less than a guy using a finesse spinning gear, all right? So, does something work? Yes. But what we're gonna go through tonight is gonna be more, how do I get more probabilities of you getting more bites and you landing more fish? And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. All right, and so you guys can, during the, if there's something that you guys want to know, more than just raise your hand and we'll try to get to some questions. I know I ran a little late last time, so I'm going to try to speed it up and not get in trouble with PJ this time again. All right, so we're going to go through some topics. So first, we're going to find out areas to target. And you know, when I go through like specifically Sturgeon Bay, Door County, you can apply this to majority of the Great Lakes. And I've fished all the Great Lakes. I've caught smallmouth in every one of the Great Lakes. And so you can apply what you learn at Sturgeon Bay to any of the Great Lakes, whether it be, you know, the St. Lawrence River and Lake Ontario, Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, Lake Superior. Everything is going to relate. They're the same species and they think the same. All right, so anything that we cover here, you guys are going to be able to apply this to any of the Great Lakes, including Mille Lacs, St. Clair. They're not one of the Great Lakes, but these tactics will work over there also. All right, so what are the key things that we're going to look for in pre-spawn spring bite? The first thing we're going to look for is find warmer water. That, if I can give you guys one big tip, that is huge, especially when you're in Sturgeon Bay, okay? In Sturgeon Bay, it's very critical. You know, everybody fishes south in Sturgeon Bay right now. Everybody's in Little Sturgeon. Everybody is between Little Sturgeon and the shipping canal, all right? That's where majority of their fishermen are gonna fish pre-spawn. You're gonna get guys that go north to Egg Harbor, to Ephraim Harbor, to Sister Island, but you're gonna chase those a little later because the water, as it warms up, it goes from south to north. So the pre-spawn bite is gonna go from south to north, right? You're gonna get pre-spawn here, down south, and then they're gonna start spawning, and then the pre-spawn bite will kind of move up north, and then it just kind of gradually goes up north. So the key is finding warmer water. What I mean by warmer water is there could be underwater current. A spot over here might be 48 degrees. A spot over there might be 51 degrees. That's where your key is. That fish is going to stack up where that warm water is. When you get colder water, they're not going to be there. They're going to gravitate towards warmer water. All right? And they're going to pack up over there. When you get that's why when you're fishing in a spot in the spring and all of a sudden the next day they're not there, chances are it's because either cold water is pushed in or the wind has taken the top off that water. And so think of this way, if you guys think of like a bay, if the top water is the warmest water, and if that's the bay out here and this is the shoreline, if I get a wind from this way, it's pushing this water, it's going to push this water out, the warm water out, and what's going to happen? You need to fill that bay back up so that colder water from the bay is going to come in this way. So it's like a cycle, right? So you got to play the wind. You got to learn the wind. So if the wind is pushing in, what's going to do is it's going to keep that warm water in the bay, which is good. Okay, specifically, if you guys fish up north, very key to find that wind to keep that warm water inside the bay. Shallow flats. What warms water? You know, we're going to talk about what warms this water, the fastest. Shallower flats are going to warm this water, right? Spawning areas. You know, everybody, we see where the spawning areas are. Does anybody raise your hand if you've seen a smallie, like a bed? You guys seen a bed? Okay. Rest you guys haven't seen a smallie bed before? Okay. I remember the first time I went up to Sturgeon Bay and I was like, what are we talking about here, a bed? And when I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh. It's literally like some beds are like, they look like Red Roof Inn. Some of these fish, they live in these little beds. Some of them, they look like they're living in like the Four Seasons. They got fancy rocks and I'm like, he's living it good. Some is like a little shack, but some of the big ones live in the shack. So, you got to find these beds. You got to know where they are. They love to bed in rocks. They love to bed in gravel. And they love to bed in like cattails, like right next to the cattails. So those are you got to find where the spawning areas are. So why I ask you where the spawning area is because they set up to go into the spawning areas in the spring. So we call that kind of the transition, the staging area. So we'll kind of go through some areas. I have some maps in here later, but spawning areas. So if you know where the spawning area is, you're going to know the transition area right before. If there's deep water where those transition areas are, that's where they're going to be in the spring. They want to be able to get in shallow, in out, as fast as they can. That's the way they are. They go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. These things are just nomadic. All right? Transition areas, rock to sand, great areas to hunt for them in the spring. Learn to use your graphs. Your graphs will tell you, when it's really bright return, really like a high contrast yellow on your graphs, those are going to be your hard bottom. Okay? A darker area is going to be your softer area, and then you're going to find rocks on your graphs. So those are key areas to finding transition areas in the water. Dock trenches, huge up in Sturgeon Bay. You go up, especially up north into Ephraim Harbor, Sister Bay area, you're going to see these owners. What they do is they dig these trenches that come out from their dock out to the deeper water so that their boats can get in and out. And so what it is just a trench, and these fish just love to congregate in these trenches in the spring. So if you can find, and how do you find trenches? Google Maps. So, the more successful you're going to be, the more homework you put in, the more successful you're going to be. Before I go fishing to somewhere new, I'm always on Google Maps. I'm on Google Maps. I'm looking, where they can be, what are some spots. Google Maps will tell you a lot what to look for, and you'll see trenches. Just a deep spot, in Google Maps. Play the wind, like I told you, with keeping the warm water in. Wind blowing points are really good in the springtime. Whenever you get a good wind pushing into a point, it's going to pin the bait fish into that area, and the smallies are just going to be right here waiting to ambush bait fish. So they're just predators. They're number one predators. They love to hunt for food, and so we have to kind of think how they think in order to target them in the spring. All right, play the wind, do your homework on Google. Like I said, look at Google Maps, look at Apple Maps, and sometimes you're going to get a cloudy on Google Maps. So go to each Apple or Google, and you usually can be able to get a good image. All right, so here's a little picture of little sturgeon. All right. Who's fished little sturgeon before? Raise your hand. All right. It's probably the number one spot in the spring for smallmouth bass in York County. You're going to see, like my buddy texted me today, the ramp at Little Sturgeon right now is already full at like 6:30 on a weekday. So the overflow parking, which is kind of across the street, is already starting to pack up. So everybody, it's a community spot. I'm not teaching you guys any secrets or anything like that. This is all really public knowledge. So the ramp is right over here, wave point. And so majority of your fishing, you'll see 100 boats between here and here, all the way up here. This shoreline, all that yellow, that's all spawning flats for smallmouth. This is where they bed. This is where they make babies, all along here. So where are their staging areas? Their staging areas are going to be in the deeper water, right outside the spawning areas. So anywhere between 3 feet, 15 feet. So when I talk about trenches, you kind of see these dock trenches here. See them? Dark spots, those are good spots to hunt for smallies in the spring. They love these trenches. All right, wind-blown points. Riley's is very famous. You get a a west wind coming blowing into here. This is a good area. What's that?
Snake Island.
Snake Island over here. That's another good area. That's deep water though. I like that more for the fall than spring, but I like to get into Riley's more in the spring. Riley's can be really good. All along here could be really good. All along here. This is all good spot. This is Squaw Point. This is also a good spot. Last year I got on a magical jerkbait bite. I caught like, I think it was like 5.5 pluses and 6 pounders in a row. By the time I take a hook off of them, take a picture and put it back, if I had another person on there, we would have continued keeping that school occupied for a while. But this can be a really good point. Be careful though, guys. So whoever's going to Sturgeon Bay for the first time this year, make sure that you guys set your graphs to offset water level minus 3 feet. The lakes are down -3 feet. All right. That's very important. I don't want to see anybody lose a lower unit. All right. Fishing, I've seen a lot of it. And last year, I almost did that. You know, I'm lucky enough to run a new boat every year. And last year, one of the things is, you're loading graphs and stuff like that. Well, my graphs are brand new. Loaded my waypoints. I didn't put the water level offsuit. I come out of here. I get on plane. And I'm zipping. I was going to zip over here. Well, I get in here and my graph says that I'm in 4 feet of water. All right? But I'm in 1. So my skeg scratches the bottom. I didn't do any damage other than get a little jaw mark on my skeg. But very, 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 very fortunate. A couple years ago, a couple guys stayed at my cabins, wrecked their lower unit on that squad, right? They tried to cut this across here. So if you're fishing this area, make wide turn, guys. Come in here. Don't try to cut through this island right here where you don't see anything. Make a wide turn coming in here. Take your time. And make sure to set your offset water level to -3 feet on your graphs before you get up to Sturgeon Bay. Very, very important.
Question,
Yes.
what is the ideal temperature for smallmouth bass throughout the entire year, both spring, summer, fall?
My favorite temperature is probably the high 40s and low 50s. I think once you get into like the mid 50s, the schools will start pushing out. And I was just talking to Mark Zona about this past weekend. We were just talking, and for some reason at like 52, 53 degrees and higher, these packs just start spreading out and they don't congregate. It's still a good time to catch them, but they're not packed up. Like right into the late 40 degrees, they tend to pack up in schools. So if you can get into a school, there could be hundreds. There was a day in Sturgeon Bay where I looked at I graphed, and it was just all hard bottom, and I can see like 15 feet down because it was early in the year and it's crystal clear. The moss hasn't grown in you, and all of a sudden I looked down and I looked at my buddy and I said, "The floor is moving." He's like, "What?" I go, "The whole floor is moving." And we looked, there must have been thousands of smallmouth. Like they were just moving as we were trolling up to them, and they were just like, they got spooked and they started moving. And so that's when they pack up like that in hundreds and thousands. They come in from deep water, they get together, and then what they do is they sit in the shallow flats and they warm themselves up, and then they start going. They start going. When they first get in, they're very, very, very lethargic. I saw a pack last year, a couple hundred of them, and I could not get one to bite. There must have been 1,000 of them, and I tried for 3 days, and I couldn't get one to bite. So I don't know, they didn't like me or something. But I threw the kitchen sink at them. I had like 12 rods on my deck, and I threw every bait that possible. And I would tell a couple of my buddies who are guides, and they're like, "Did you throw this? Yes. Did you throw this? Yes." They just one bite. So when they get into that stage, when they first come out of deep water, because they usually, smallmouth in the winter, they live in like 40 to 70 feet of water, and they just attach to a rock, and they're just stagnant. And then when they get out of that, it's almost like getting out of a coma. They got to acclimate to that warmer water, and then it triggers their metabolism.
Do they have to eat every day?
In the winter, they don't eat every day. So that's why they pack their food in the fall. They get tummies like me, so that's why the fall bite is really huge, because what they're doing is they're eating for a couple months, and they're storing that fat in their body so that they're just releasing that, that they can survive in the winter, because there's not a lot of food in the winter. Yeah.
Is that for just them or all fish?
I don't know. I'm a bass guy, so I kind of try to study bass habits. I'm not sure about walleyes and other fish. I mean, whitefish, people target them through the ice up in Sturgeon Bay, and they'll bite. So I don't know. It's a good question. All right. Anybody questions with like targeting areas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What launch would you fly?
If you're gonna fish little sturgeon, wave point right here, it's called it's just called Little Sturgeon Ramp. They have if you're up there for a few days, I think it's like there's a season pass. It's like $50, and it's pretty good because you're able to use that launch and the one at the quarry, which is in the shipping canal, the mouth of the shipping canal, and that's a really good area too. All right, so
I have one more. What about launches? You said resorts that you have?
yeah, we'll get through that at the end. So we can kind of go over. So this is another area that's a very big spot in the spring to target smallmouth. This is the main shipping canal. All right, this is what connects Lake Michigan to Sturgeon Bay. This is Sturgeon Bay here. Lake Michigan's down here. All right, so there's a couple boat launches. There's the Potawatomi boat launch, which is in over here in Sawyer Harbor, and then we got a launch up here in the corner. That's the Quarry launch. The Quarry is a beautiful launch. It's my favorite launch in Door County. Wide spaces. There's a lot of parking. And very easy in and out of, there's, I want to say 5 or 6 ramps. So very good ramp to get into. If you buy a season pass at Little Sturgeon, I believe it's City of Sturgeon Bay ramp, you get access to the Quarry ramp too. So both ramps are the same. Like if you buy a season pass for $50, if you go up there for 4 days, it's worth it. So another big area it's called the Sturgeon Bay Flats. All right. People talk about the Sturgeon Bay Flats, the tournament, the Sturgeon Bay Open was won 2 years ago on the Sturgeon Bay Flats, and it's been won many years down there. These fish these are all spawning flats. All this shallow is spawning flats. Last year, 2 days before the Sturgeon Bay Open, I saw Corey Johnston basically just scan this whole area looking for beds. And he would hop on his trolling motor, he would look on with the flogger down. If he sees something, he marks it on his graph. If not, he just rolls past, so he's looking for the right fish. And for last year was a bed fishing fest. But these are all beds right here. And what you do for pre-spawn, you move out in deeper water, so the fish are traveling through here, they're coming in here to spawn, so they're setting up their staging areas all along here. What are you looking for? Warmer water, looking for rocks, looking for boulders. They'll congregate into those areas. So this is a huge area. Westwood Shore, Bay Shore, these are two like hotels. One's like pink, one is like brown, or I'm sorry, like a bluish gray. Very distinctive. You'll see a lot of boats on, a lot of guides on there. It's a good landmark for you guys that haven't fished. It's a good landmark to go fish. You know, stay out in, you know, anywhere between 4 to 8 feet of water. I haven't been up in Little Sturgeon yet this year in the flat, so I don't know how much water has gone down. I heard it's gone down another foot or two. So be very careful if you guys are up at Sturgeon Bay.
What's the distance across that bay?
From here to here?
Yeah.
I don't know, a mile? Yeah, it's a pretty big bay. I mean, the ships use this, like you'll see like big, like, you know, those big barges that go through and the icebreakers go through here in the winter. It's big, but don't waste your time on this side of the shoreline. It's really not good for bass. I mean, that's not to say you're not going to catch any, but your percentages are going to be a lot lower on this side. This area is a good flat. A lot of spawning area in here. This is called Sawyer Harbor. Be careful when you get in there. It's super shallow this year. But a lot of beds. So they'll stage all along here. They'll stage in here. Cabot Point's another good point. Man, the guides are going to hate me giving you guys all these spots. Cabot Point is a really good, if you get a northwest wind that blows into this point here. So that's a good idea of like the shipping canal. This is the Sturgeon Bay. And then over here, this is Sand Bay. Sand Bay can be pretty good. All right, some different baits that I want to go through that you guys want to target in the spring. Swim bait is probably my favorite bait. I've been out on Lake Michigan twice this year, and 95% of my fish have been caught on swim baits. It's just you can't get it out of my hands in the spring. It's a good summer bait too. It's a good year-round bait. A paddle tail swim bait is a deadly bait for smallmouth. They can't resist it. And one thing, you know, you got a good paddle tail. So we'll kind of go through what makes it like my number one. So it is my number one presentation. I always have it with me. It's always, you know, I actually have 2 swim bait rods on my deck at all time. One is I use a 3/16, and then one I use an 1/8. So what's the difference? And it's very minimal, right? You got 2/16 to 3/16. The difference is when I'm fishing shallower and there's a lot of bigger boulders that I'm gonna snag more in, I'm gonna gravitate more to the 1/8. If I'm in a little deeper water, 12, 15 feet, and I wanna make bottom contact more, then I'm gonna go to 3/16 on it, all right? The Lake Michigan fish right now are relating to the bottom. You have to keep it on the bottom for them to even think about eating. And they want it super slow. All right, like, you know, I see guys, I'll fish with some buddies and cast, and it's just like, it's like that thing is going right across the top of the water, you know. I mean, if you're slow, then go even slower than you think you're slow. I mean, we were today, the last 2 days we were out there, literally, I'm just letting it fall, and I'm just kind of dragging the bottom. I'll shake it, I'll reel it, shake it, reel it. And so I'm imitating like a dying bait fish on the bottom. It's just dragging, and then I'll pop it up a little bit, like dragging, pop it up a little bit. So dragging that bottom is very key. And so that's why, like if I'm closer to shore, I use an 1/8. If I'm out farther, I'm gonna use a 3/16. Guys, I can't stress this enough. Spend a little bit of extra money on tungsten. All right, tungsten is, it's better for the economy. It's much more dense. So a 3/16 head on tungsten is gonna go through the water, and the presentation is gonna be a lot smaller than a 3/16 lead, all right? And in the springtime, everything is downsize, all right? What size? I like to use like a 275, 3-inch at max, 3.2 at max. Save your 3/8, 4-inch swim baits for the fall and for the summer. These fish love small baits because at this point of the year, they're chasing stuff that are very small. They're not big. So you gotta match the hatch. So Kitex, 275, 3-inch Kitex, spark shads. Yamamoto came up with these. They debuted at ICAST last year. I was very fortunate enough to get to be in part of the testing team for this, and I had my hands on some of this stuff last summer. And we tweaked some stuff with it. It has a really tight wobble, which one of the things that when I told the guy who was making this bait, designing the bait, that we wanted a really tight wobble. So it shimmies real tight instead of a wide dispersion. So we want that really tight shimmy. So it's a really good bait. Check it out. It just hit the stores like this fall. There's a pack here that we're doing as a door prize. You guys can come up and take a look at it. Color-wise, somebody asked me this earlier. We were just sitting around. I stay with green pumpkin. Pretty much that's all I want to use. And I stick to basic colors. Green pumpkin, goby, anything that kind of imitates a goby, right? Green pumpkin black, green pumpkin purple. Any of the green pumpkins are they say that fishing baits are made for anglers, not fish. When there's 1,000 colors Senkos, Gary told me that. Gary says, we make all those colors for you guys, not the fish. So, when you walk to the bait shop and you go, ooh, color looks nice. I attracted you, not the fish, right? So if we're up in the north here, stay with the natural colors. Stay with the pumpkins because they're eating bluegills, they're eating perch, and they're eating gobies. So flash is another good color. It's kind of a white, and that imitates like maybe a smelt, or we saw them spitting up some kind of alewives or something earlier. So, that's another key for you guys. When you guys are fishing, pay attention if the fish spit up something. We're always looking for that. Whatever they spit up is what you want to throw, and that's what they're eating. What do I use? I use a St. Croix Legend Elite 7.6 MF, medium fast. And, I get a lot of people go, well, you're on the St. Croix team and you get the fancy, nice rods and, the most expensive stuff. And so my counter to that is that, yes, but St. Croix also makes lower lines. But so this is what I use, but pay attention to the action and the length. So they make different models. So the reason I like a 7.6 is because when I'm throwing a 3/16 or an 1/8, real light, I want that rod to be really whippy. I want a longer rod. If I throw a shorter 6.6 rod, it's not going to go as far. If I throw a 7.6, guess what? I'm going to get a lot more casting with it. The rod is going to act like a whip, and it's going to get that cast out farther. In the springtime, you want to make as long as cast as possible because those fish are very, very spooky in the spring. So 7.6 medium fast is a great, great setup. Spinning, of course, I don't use a lot of bait casters in the spring at all. I'll use it on a jerk bait, but that's about it. So 7.6 is a good, 7.3, 7.2 is fine. But you don't want to go more than a medium. Medium light is probably what you guys want to gravitate towards. What I use Seagar's 10-pound braid smackdown to an 8-pound gold label. And, I see comments on Facebook all the time in some of these forums, small bass smallmouth bass addict, smallmouth bass station. I'm so used to using mono line. I'm never going to change. You know, I don't believe in it. Why are you guys using fancy braid? And I want you guys to understand there's a reason why everybody, all the top pros are using braid to fluoro. Number one, there's no stretch. Okay? There's no stretch. There's instant hook set. All right? Number two, I can cast way farther with braid than I can with the monofilament. All right? Number three, monofilament has tons and tons of memory. You guys have put monofilament on, you keep that on over the winter, that thing's like a memory bank, right? It's like all loopy when it comes out. Guess what? Braid doesn't have any memory. All right? And then braid also comes in a bright high-vis green, which I like to use. It's because I want to be able to detect a bite. If I make that big cast and my line is jumping and I can't feel that, guess what? That fish has it already. All right? So visibility is another thing. So and then the reason we use a fluorocarbon leader is because a fluorocarbon leader is invisible, right? So you try to throw straight braid, smallmouth is going to be way too smart. They're going to see that. So you want the fluorocarbon leader. Typically, I run 8 to 12 feet leader, all right? And the reason I do that is because, one, I'm lazy. So if I break off, I don't have to retie the leader on my boat as often. So run a long leader. I see people with like a 3-foot leader. I'm like, you break one time and you're going to retie that leader, right? So do a 12-foot leader. You'll thank me. All right?
Question.
Yes.
What are you using for a knot?
I like to use an Alberto and I use the FG. When I'm at home, I'll use the FG because I tie it to like my foot or something, and it's kind of it's a little bit intimidating knot in my opinion, right? The Alberto, I've used it for so long, ever since I started, using a knot. It's very simple. I've done videos on it. Like I can, if anybody's interested, I can link you to a YouTube video that I've done, and you can also go to YouTube and Google Alberto knot. It's real simple. It's you take your fluoro line, you make a loop, you come through that loop and you wrap it around. You go 8 times this way, 8 that, you go back out that loop, and snap it down. So it's a really good, and I've never had an issue with it breaking.
I've heard that chapstick is a good thing to rub on.
Yeah, chapstick's good. I've never done it. I don't need it. Usually I don't go that thick, so I'm usually running 10. My favorite braid is 10 pounds, and I run through like 8 or 10 pound fluorocarbon leader. I've never ever broken a 10 pound braid on a fish. Like fish will not, that 10 pound leader, I dare you guys to take that and try to snap that thing. You can't. Like you're gonna cut your hand before. So 10 pound is really strong, it's thin. The smackdown is super smooth too. There's a coating on it. And so it's a really good line. So check it out. It is a little pricey. Their Power Pro makes a good braid. I think Daiwa J braid is a pretty good braid too. So there's different options for you guys out there, but definitely if you guys aren't fishing a braid to fluorocarbon leader, please check it out.
So the Alberto knot, when you're out in the boat, when you're going.
Alberto, FG when I'm at home. FG, yep. Slow retrieval. Like I have told you guys, like what we're doing. We're nicking the bottom of the floor of the lake, right? We're on the bottom contact. We're just bouncing along. That's what they like this time of year. So, you gotta remember, you guys are fishing an 1/8 or a 3/16. When you make that cast, if you're in 10 feet of water, you gotta wait a little bit to get that thing down. Don't be in a hurry to reel that up. All right, so be patient. Let that bait sink. Let that bait get down to the bottom.
Excuse me, that's your question.
Yeah.
How durable is that Yamamoto versus like a contact?
I think it would hold up similar. Yeah. I used one, I think this past, like last 2 times, I've caught 5, 6, 7 fish on one and not have any issues with the tail breaking or anything. Way more durable than the Senko. You know, funny story, first time I met Gary, I asked him, I go, why do you guys, why is the Senko so soft and breaks? He goes, we want you to buy more. But, yeah. Yes. I use 8 to 10. So 8 when I'm running stuff that I'm kind of running like a swim bait or something. I'll use 10 when I'm running like a Ned rig or something I'm bouncing off the rocks. Like a tube. I'll go to 10. I just want a little thicker, a little more durability, a little more abrasion resistant on the 10 when I'm doing, especially off tube. Any other questions? Yeah.
What about fire line or spider web?
I've never really had experience with them, to be honest with you, so I don't know. But I've been a Seaguar guy for a long time. I use J-Braid, but even before I was sponsored by Seaguar, I was using their line. I've always thought they were one of the best lines. I know Sunline makes a really good line too. So I would stay with like Sunline, Daiwa, Power Pro, or Seaguar. They make the best lines, yeah. Anybody, any other questions before we move on? All right, jerk baits. Who's throwing jerk baits? Who's throwing jerk? Everybody's throwing jerk baits. All right. Jerk baits are a good, and to me, it's really only good when it's a windy day or windy conditions. If it's flat calm out there, you can put your jerk bait away because they're not going to hit it. And what happens is that, when the wind stirs up that food, it's creating that motion. So they'll see that jerk bait a mile away when it's calm and they know what it is. They're not going to hit it. So generally save that for when it's windy. Windy blowing points is a really good presentation, jerk bait presentation. I'm a big Megabass Vision 110. They are expensive. They're $25 a piece, but they work. It's something in the balance with the rattles in there, and it's something about Japanese. Japanese baits. They're very artistic. They're very well balanced. They're just, they're very articulate. Artistic, and their movements are very just engineered properly, and that's why I like it. And I'm not sponsored by them. I pay full price, or I try to get a discount wherever I can. And I know it hurts when we get bitten off by a muskie or a pike with these things, but they work. So a couple things we'll go through real fast. Cadence. When it's cold, the colder the water, the slower you want the cadence. What I mean is cadence is you're going to have to find that right cadence where the fish like to hit it. Whether it's snap, pause, snap, snap, pause, snap, pause, snap, snap. You're going to kind of have to play around with that. What do they like? But one of the biggest mistakes I see early season in the spring is guys jump on my boat, my buddies, and they think they're Kevin Van Dam. They throw it out there, it's like, and it's like, those things just, don't do that. In the spring, very subtle. What I like to do is I cast, I twitch, and I pause. Sometimes make yourself count 5 seconds. Twitch. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000. Twitch. Big key. All right? They don't want it fast. They're not chasing. They're still lethargic in the spring. So cadence is huge. Be sure that you're watching yourself. There's a theme to all this. All the bait presentation is slow. All right? Longer pauses in cold water. Windy days are good. Ideal rod. 6'8", medium extra fast for you bait caster guys. That's what I like to throw it on. But if you prefer throwing on a spinning gear, then I would go to like a 7.2, 7.3 medium extra fast tip. That gives you a little flexibility, gives you a good launch. And the line I like to use is, so for, if I'm going bait caster, I'm going pure fluorocarbon. I don't use braid to fluorocarbon at all on my bait caster, because what I want to do is so on a, who's heard of here where you, like on a jerk bait, on a crankbait, you don't want the instant hook set. You want a softer parabolic rod, and you want fluorocarbon line to give you a little stretch. Because when a fish takes that bait, the last thing you want to do is rip those treble hooks out of its mouth with like a hard rod, or if you're going like pure braid, you're just going to rip it out of its mouth. You want a little stretch. So that's an application that you want a little stretch. So that's why I like 12-pound fluorocarbon. And if you want to fish a little deeper, here's a trick. Go to 10-pound fluorocarbon. It's a thinner diameter, so it's going to sink down a little bit deeper when you're working the bait. So if you're working shallow, you want the bait to suspend up top a little more, go to 12, 14. You're fishing deeper, go to a thinner diameter, go to a 10-pound fluorocarbon leader, because it will sink faster being a thinner diameter line. All right, Visex is great. There's a box up here for a giveaway for you guys. It's great stuff. Spool that on your, I would use, Zona likes to use that on spinning gear on his tubes too. He likes to snap it. If you guys see this show, he likes that. He likes to to snap his tubes. And so, for tubes, I'm still a braid to fluoro guy.
You jerk baits, are they, you walk in and that's where you get floaters, suspending jerk baits, sinking jerk.
So that's why I like the Mega Bass. There's no floating, there's no suspending. So what they do is the regular 110 is probably ideal depth of 4 to 6 feet. The plus ones probably are 8 to 10, and the plus twos are probably over 10 feet. So the regular 110 Vision 110s are like 4 to 6 feet. The Vision 110 plus ones you're going to be your 6 to 8. And then when you want to run deeper, you do the plus twos.
I guess that jerk bait up is floating on top, forward.
Yeah, I don't like the floating ones. That's another reason why the Mega Bass is really good. They suspend. They have a great suspend, and so like if you cast it and you give it a twitch, that bait's going to suspend down in that water column versus floating up, and that's what you want. You want it suspended when they're looking at it. Any other questions? Yeah.
So are you tying those direct or using a snap?
I never use a snap. Like some people use snaps because they think it's faster to change baits or whatever. I think it messes with the action. And that's just me personally. I don't have any scientific information if it does. But, I think that the bait is designed with a swivel on there already. And I think if you add a snap, then it just creates a different action, in my opinion. So I tie directly, and as a fisherman, we should be able to tie our lines pretty fast. So if I need to, cut a bait, just cut and retie pretty easily. I don't use a loop. I use a loop when I'm like minnow shaking, like when I'm front-facing sonar minnow shaking. I'll use a loop knot because I get that more action on the rolling, on the strolling. But on a jerkbait, I just try directly, just direct knot. And I use like a polymer knot, pretty simple. Yeah.
Seaguar has about 10 different categories of fluorocarbon. Which one do you use?
So I tell people this. Invisex is a great line. All right, it's a great line when you're casting. It's a great leader material, but it's not as abrasion resistant as like Abrazex, as Tatsu, as the gold label. So, you know, it's great. It's supple. It's more supple than red label, you know, because then you'll be able to cast farther. But it's not as abrasion resistant. So is it good, okay to use as a leader material? Yes. But you're more prone to getting nicks from the zebra mussels and the rocks on the Vizex versus like the Abrazex or the gold label. Yeah, so they're different levels.
Oh, yeah.
Some people tell me red label, they love red label. I think it's a little stiffer. Like I can't make a longer cast with it, but I think Vizex is great to make long casts. All right, we're gonna try to jump through some more stuff. And we'll do another great bait in the spring is a hair jig. All right, and you know, I got a buddy up in Sturgeon Bay. He ties it. Howie sells hair jigs. Thorn Brothers sells good hair jigs. In the springtime, I tend to run a 1/16 or 3/32 marabou black or black purple. I keep it very simple. All right. Slow, steady retrieval. Who's throwing hair jigs in here? Okay, we need to get more of you guys throwing hair jigs. Deadly, deadly, deadly smallmouth presentation in the springtime, especially when it's a slick, calm, clear water. It's a great presentation. A secret that I learned a while back. So hair jigs are real light, right? So it's very hard to cast. Some people are like, I can't make a long cast with my hair jigs. Something really cool is if you take a piece of Ned, like a Z-Man Ned or any kind of small plastic, especially Z-Man, if you cut a little piece about, you know, yay big, 1/4 inch or something, and you thread it through the hook all the way up by the eye, up like by here, as far as you can get up, what happens is that gives you a little bit more weight to make that long cast, but it's not going to sink it down because that Ned has a floating formula to it. So the reason why you're using light is because you're fishing shallow and you're really cranking really slowly. If you're using anything heavier, if you're cranking slowly, that thing's going to snag on the bottom, right? So the reason you put the Ned is that it still floats but gives you a little bit of weight. So that's a good help for you guys to throw a hair jig. All right. Very, very important is the rod selection. And I have the rods up here if you guys want to take a look at it. The St. Croix Physics makes a great hair jig rod. And the reason it's great, it's 710. All right, it's a long rod. And, yep, this is a 710 medium light extra fast. Okay? It's 7 foot 10 inches, so it's going to give me a really long rod to make a long cast. It's super sensitive tip. Look how soft this tip is up here, and it's going to just, you know, it's going to give you a really whip action to make a long rod. So rod selection is very important. Whether you buy St. Croix or another brand, you want a medium light action rod, and you want minimum 7.6. 7.6 to 7.10 medium light extra fast is the rod to throw a hair jig. All right, and make sure you guys wet the hair before you throw it. I've seen people pick up a hair jig and just start whipping it. It goes nowhere. Take the hair jig, dip it in the water, get it wet, make the long cast. Yes.
For one single pole, or do you prefer
Oh, like a 3-piece rod?
like 3-piece?
I fish off my boat most of the time, or off a friend's boat, and so I never have multi-pieces. The only time I use multi-piece rod is when I'm traveling, like if I'm on a plane, if I'm going down to Florida, and I'm just on vacation. I want to bring like a rod just to throw in a pond, and I'll throw that. But I if you can, I would never get a multi-piece action rod. You know, like some people travel in cars with it, which is great. But if you're fishing a boat, there's never a need for a multi-piece. The longer the cast, better. You know, use light line again. Very key. 10 pound braid to 8-pound leader. And the reason that, like I said, I can make long casts with braid, and you can see the line jump. I've had many, many bites where you don't feel it, and that fish is swimming off with your hair jig in 3 feet of water. And if you don't, you're never gonna feel it when he takes off with it because you're making such a long cast. So having that line, to see that line jump is very key. Yeah.
I noticed all of your reels are spun with green line,
Yes.
and your amount of filament's clear, right?
So no, my fluorocarbon leader is clear, not mono.
But you always fish with green line?
Yes.
You watch that?
So I can see it.
So you see it?
So, yeah, so that high vis green is my favorite color line. And you'll never see me with the dark color line, is because I can see my bites on, I can see the line jump. So that's why all my line is that green. Yeah, high vis green. Good question. Anything else before we move on? All right. Tubes. Everybody's here is fish tubes. Tubes been around forever. Tubes are a great bait. We'll just go through real fast. In the springtime, I'm more of an 1/8 ounce or 3/16. I like it to fall slowly. All right, let's not be in a hurry to get that. A lot of times you're getting that bite on the fall. All right. I like, Neds. I put it together. Chartreuse color heads. If you guys fish Neds, for some reasons, to me, smallies, they gravitate towards like a chartreuse head. I love chartreuse heads. So, try it out. Natural colored tubes. If I had tubes to carry, I carry 1 box, and I probably carry 6 colors. Here's 4 of them. It's like a green pumpkin or green pumpkin black. This is like kind of a, I don't know, grayish sand color. That's like an amber. And that's like a little darker amber. That's all you really need. Those are probably the 4 shades that I use the most. I like the smaller 2.75 and 2.5 tubes in the spring. And I actually, be honest with you, I use them in the summer too. I like them smaller tubes versus the bigger 3.5, 4-inch tubes. And just, in the summer, I'll go to a 3/8 or even a half. In the fall, I'll go to a 3/4. We're fishing 30, 40 feet in the fall. So in the springtime, you're fishing in 6 to 10 feet. 1/8 or 3/16 out with the short shank that are meant for the short tubes are really good. Cast Again makes a really good tube. Local guys out of Green Bay, they make a great tube. Howie sells a tube up in Sturgeon Bay that's a great tube. But stick with the 2.75s, 2.5 in the springtime. Smaller presentation. Again, rod selection, pretty much anything like a Ned or a tube, anywhere between a 6.10 to a 7.3 medium extra fast action should get you by with a Ned or a tube or a dark sleeper or anything like that. You never see me carry a medium heavy rod. Medium's all you need. With the proper drag, set correctly, you'll never break a medium action rod. You never, unless you're both flipping them or something, which I've done, and break the rod. So don't get lazy. You guys just use your nets, use your buddy. I tried to boat flip on a medium and that rod just went church. And St. Croix wasn't very happy. They were like, "What'd you do?" I tried to boat flip a 5-pound smallie.
Who sells the chartreuse methods?
Z-Man does. Yeah, there's a lot of like Ned companies you'll see that makes a chartreuse. They make like green pumpkin, black chartreuse. But yeah, Z-Man makes a really good one. Any other questions with tubes or Neds? Other notable baits. Senkos, people don't think about the Senko. Senkos are really good. Wacky or Dinko Ray. Use the natural colors. All right. Yamatanuki. They came out with that a year or 2 ago. They look like a bowling pin. They look like when they're falling, they look like a goby dancing, to be honest with you guys. So, a Yamatanuki. It's Yaro. Hula grubs. Gary used these things like 30 years ago. They still work. People don't use them. Throw that on a just, it's kind of a little secret. People use a hula grub. Just drag that on the bottom on like a football or a swing head. Glide baits. People think we downsize. We do. And I haven't done it, but I am going to use more glide baits this year in the spring to try to target some bigger fish. And when I talk about glide baits, it's like the in thing now. Everybody loves these glide baits. They're 6-7 inches long. 2 years ago in the fall, I was on Mille Lacs and my buddy caught it was a 6.99 smallmouth that had a 11-inch perch stuck in his mouth. And then when he caught it, it spit it up, and we took it, and I said, and we didn't think about it later after we released it. We're like, you should have weighed that fish with the perch in its mouth. It would have been well over 7 pounds because it had the perch in its mouth. So they eat big bait. So, I'm going to try it. Somebody told me that guys were getting them pretty good last year in the spring with it. So, something to try. Dark Sleeper, great bait. Made by Mega Bass. I like the smaller ones. I think they're 2.5, 275 or something. And that's probably my favorite color, the Dumpo. Looks like a goby. My second favorite color is this Matsuguru. So stick to these two colors. Are two of the best colors in my opinion. Stay with the smaller ones in the spring because the gobies aren't that big yet. Gobies get bigger in the summer as they feed more. Yeah.
The tiny one or the medium one?
The smallest ones you can buy. Yeah. I have some in my car if anybody wants to see what they look like. I carry a bunch of them in my car, but they're small, the smaller ones. And I like the 3/8 because I can keep bottom contact. One of the things a mistake I make a lot too is I fish a little too fast and I need to slow down. And so like a 3/8 will slow you down. You want to just drag that bottom. That's what they're doing. So a 1/4 is harder on windy days to keep that bottom contact. So 3/8 is a really good size for the smaller bed. And then in the summer, you can go to the bigger too. You can go to the bigger Dark Sleepers. It's really good. So this is a great bait. So if I had a choice, on my deck at all times, it would be a swim bait, a tube, a jerk bait, a hair jig, and a Dark Sleeper. Those would be my 5 rods that are on my deck in the springtime. All right, you asked about this. So I opened up a resort. It's just a collection of cabins. I did it a couple years ago. We built in 2020. And the reason is that I got fed up and tired of sleeping in hotels in Sturgeon Bay. And a couple times I woke up to guys unplugging my boat and plugging their boats in. And, another time we rented a house that said sleep 6 and there were 3 beds. All right. And I'm way too old to share any beds with any of my buddies. We don't do that. We don't do that anymore. What's that?
Nuts to butts.
Yeah, no, I'm done with nuts to butts. That was college days where you were poor, But, so, when I was looking for property to build something, I wanted something that, would accommodate anglers and fishermen. And so, they're fully furnished houses. Each has 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Each bedroom has 2, beds. It's got a nice living room. And if you can look here, we designed this, I designed this for easy parking. When you pull in the streets here, when you pull in the street, all you got to do is just back your boat up here. You come here, you back your boat. You stay at this house, you can go around and park right there. There's no, 90-degree turn or 100, it's just, your electrical stems are right here. So you're 2 feet from your boat to plug in. So these are things from an angler that, we design for anglers. And, we run a lot more to Airbnb vacationers nowadays, but I'd like to get more anglers. We give anglers a special rate versus our bear. Our Airbnb rates, I think $325 a night. We have an angler rate of $275. And if you contact me or if you contact my property manager and you say, oh, I talked to Todd there's a angler rate, and $275, and then we charge $150 one-time cleaning fee to clean the house. It's really affordable if you got 6 guys going together, and it's much better. A hotel room nowadays runs you like, $125, $150 a night for 2 guys. So it's a great option for you guys. Book early, like it just gets booked up, especially in the summer. There's some spring openings right now. So it's a great area. Like I said, if you guys are looking for a place, other places to stay, there's a Super 8 if it's just 2 of you guys going. That's a great option. That's where I got my boat unplugged many times. We're 7 minutes from the shipping canal, and we're about 15 minutes from Little Sturgeon. And if you guys are familiar with Sturgeon Bay, we're right next to the Sturgeon Bay Airport, and we're like 5 minutes from downtown. So pretty close, pretty convenient, right off of Major Street. And if you guys are staying at our property, and if you guys are struggling, contact me. I'll help you guys. I have a lot of guide buddies up there, and we try to help anglers who rent a place from us to give them, a little help, and so yeah, we try. And most of the time when people come to our place, it's really nice. As anglers, we don't expect much, right? Like, we've stayed in some crappy motels as anglers, and some of my guys go in there and they're like, holy cow, this is like the Taj Mahal. Like, they're used to like a dirty bed, and so these are pretty brand new. They were built in 2020. I'm sorry. So that's the name of our resort. That's our Facebook page. And so it's a great location for you guys. If you guys are, doing group trip or anything like that. So, hey there. Now we're at. Any questions before I end it? And yeah.
Any ice fishing,
Do I don't guide at all, but I can help you. I have a lot of friends that guide. So ice fishing guides, yeah. Jeff Weatherwax, his wife is my property manager. He runs Tight Line Charters, and he runs a ice fishing trip out of Sturgeon Bay. Brett Alexander is another good guide up there that does ice fishing, does smallie trips too. What's that?
Is Brett fishing again now?
Brett?
Yeah.
Oh, he's fishing every day. Yeah. You can't keep that guy off the water. He does like double trips and triple trips. Any other questions? Yeah.
You mentioned that you were fishing off the lake from Chicago.
Yes, sir. I launch out of Burnham Harbor. They get you for $31 for parking now. A little steep. Yeah, it used to be 28, but it's 31. It's just you got to pay to play. It's downtown Chicago. It's, you can go a little cheaper to go to 95th Street and launch. I think it's free. It's supposed to be like $30, but most people, you might get your truck broken into. When you get, it's $25. It's $25, but it's free though. I think that the machine doesn't work or something. Yeah, but then you got to spend the gas money in your boat to get up to downtown, and then now you're playing with the weather, with the waves. No. So I go out of Burnham. It's really easy. Like, it's right where Soldier Field is. So if you come up, if you're coming up Lakeshore Drive North, right there. Be careful in the ramp. The water's down a couple feet, and there's exposed bolts that they need to put some wood there. So you just got to be careful when you're pulling in or you're backing in. Just be careful. Those bolts are exposed.
All the cameras showing that they are applying to fishing land, so it wouldn't be going in to keep the warm water.
Say that again?
So all the cameras that show for fishing up in the
So it doesn't apply as much to Chicago because our harbors are very protected, right? So it's got a water flow, but it doesn't get exposed like Sturgeon Bay does. So, the thing about the secret about fishing Chicago is that in the springtime you look like Kevin Van Dam. They're very predictable. They're where they're supposed to be. Come summertime, they're very hard to fish. You know, they close off the water reclamation plant area. They put the buoys there. You can't fish there. So the only areas that that you can target the smallmouth bass in the summer in downtown is like the breakwalls. And you know, the structure of downtown is very flat. There's not a lot of rocks out there, so there's no places for craws and gobies to hide, and so that's what attracts the smallies. So I don't know where they go in the summer. I just don't fish it. It's just, I love the spring. It gives you very unique pictures of holding smallmouth bass with the downtown backdrop that people don't, you don't get that anywhere else. There's a couple cities in the world you get that in. So Barnum Harbor is probably the best. Any other questions? Thank you very much, guys.
Okay, the moment we've all been waiting for. Hey, Todd, you picked the winning ticket.
Oh, all right. That's the lucky guy.
You're gonna call out the ticket number, bend backwards, and show the camera, all right?
All right.
Keep the name and phone number from the team and live feed.
You guys are professionals.
So, first place.
Steve, dig in there. I put mine in braille.
Read up camera.
Dick Volders? Valders?
Read the whole number out.
Different name.
0322? Dick Volders? VOLDER? Is that Volders?
Dick Boulders, 322. Ticket number for the Garmin Raffle. Congratulations.
Not here? Redraw? Is that
Okay, now second place, St. Croix Rod.
it? All right. Who's getting the St. Croix rod? Ken Henderson. Nobody's here. Ken Henderson.
Ticket 45. Ticket 45. Ken Henderson. Second place, St. Croix Rod. Okay, third place, another St. Croix Rod.
Tim Williams, 137. Nobody's ever here. What is this?
Tim Williams, 137. Third place prize. We'll call you guys tonight.
I want to pick somebody that's here.
Thank you all for participating in the
Oh,
Garmin
okay.
Life Scope raffle. All right, we have recess. You guys can run smoke out front. We don't want to bring the draft in from the back door. All right, be back about 10-15 minutes.
All right, take